just keep in mind that, yes, you may already know what happens, but that'll be okay. So I'm going to read the story before you guys get into independent reading, and I'm going to need all eyes and ears on me and your full participation, okay? All right, so we are going to read A Bad Case of Stripes by David Shannon. Based off of the cover alone, again, forget what you know about the story. If you were to just look at this cover, raise your hand and tell me what do you think the book would be about. Merlin.
Like a girl that was sick.
Was sick? What tells you that the girl is sick?
She's bad.
She has a cup. She's in bed. Good. Yes, Angel.
She fell into pain.
One more time.
She fell into pain.
She's in pain.
No, she fell.
Oh, she fell into pain. Okay, that's a good prediction. All right. Do I have anything else? Yeah, Amar.
She felt different.
She felt different. What might you? What
She
you
had
think?
like stripes, and I think that she also cried last time because other people didn't have stripes like her.
Okay. So Amar said that she may be sad based off of their facial expression. Good. All of those are really good. Okay, so we're gonna get into the story. All right. Again, Bad Case of Stripes by David Shannon. All right. Camila Cream loved lima beans, but she never ate them. All of her friends hated lima, but none seemed quite right. She put on a pretty red dress and looked in the mirror. Then she screamed. Her mother ran into the room, and she screamed too. "Oh my heavens," she cried. "You're completely covered with stripes." This was certainly true. Camila was striped from head to toe. She looked like a rainbow. Mrs. Cream felt Camila's forehead. "Do you feel all right?" she asked. "I feel fine," Camila answered. "But just look at me." "You get back in bed this instant," her mother ordered. "You're not going to school today." Camila was relieved. She didn't want to miss the first day of school, but she was afraid of what the other kids would say. And she had no idea what to wear with those crazy stripes. That afternoon, Dr. Bumble came to examine Camila. "Most extraordinary," he exclaimed. "I've never seen anything like it." Show of hands, who could tell me what extraordinary might mean? Aaron.
Outstanding.
Outstanding, perfect, yeah. Anything else, Mateo?
Something you've never seen.
You've never seen, yes. All of these answers are right. So unusual, exceptional, out of the ordinary, yeah, good. All right. Are you having any coughing, sneezing, runny nose, aches, pains, chills, hot flashes, dizziness, drowsiness, shortness of breath, or uncontrollable twitching? No, Camila told him. "I feel fine." "Well then," Dr. Bumble said, turning to Mrs. Cream, "I don't see any reason why you shouldn't go to school tomorrow. Here's some ointment that should clear up those stripes in a few days. If it doesn't, you know where to reach me." And off he went. The next day was a disaster. Everyone at school laughed at Camila. They called her Camila Crayon and Night of the Living Lollipop. She tried her best to act as if everything were normal, but when the class said the Pledge of Allegiance, her stripes turned red, white, and blue, and she broke out in stars. The other kids thought it was great. One yelled out, "Let's see some purple polka dots." Sure enough, Camila turned all purple polka dotty. Someone else shouted, "Checkerboard," and a pattern of squares covered her skin. Soon, everyone was calling out different shapes and colors, and poor Camila was changing faster than she could change channels on a TV. That night, Mr. Arms, the school principal, said, "I'm sorry, Mrs. Cream," he said. "I'm going to have to ask you to keep Camila home from school. She's just too much of a distraction. And I've been getting calls from the other parents. They're afraid those stripes may be contagious." All right, we have another good vocabulary word. What does contagious mean? Kevin?
That it can spread a lot of diseases.
Perfect. Exactly right. Who agrees? I agree. Good. Awesome. Camila was so embarrassed. She couldn't believe that 2 days ago everyone liked her. Now nobody wanted to be in the same room with her. Her father tried to make her feel better. "Is there anything I can get you, sweetheart?" he asked. "No, thank you," sighed Camila. What she really wanted was a nice plate of lima beans, but she had been laughed at enough for one day. Well, yes, I see," Dr. Bumble mumbled when Mr. Cream phoned the next day. "I think I'd better bring in the specialist. We'll be right over." About an hour later, Dr. Bumble arrived with 4 people in long white coats. He introduced them to the Creams. "This is Dr. Grope, Dr. Sponge, Dr. Cricket, and Dr. Young." Then the specialist went to work on Camila. They squeezed and jabbed, tapped, and tested. It was very uncomfortable. "Well, it's not the mumps," concluded Dr. Grope. "Or the measles," said Dr. Sponge. "Definitely not chicken pox," put in Dr. Cricket. Or sunburns, said Dr. Young. Try these, said the specialist. They each handed her a bottle filled with different colored pills. Take one of each before bed, said Dr. Grote. Then they filed out the front door, followed by Dr. Bumble. All right, we're about halfway done with the story, so using the first post-it note, I want you guys to predict what might happen next. Take about 2 minutes and then we'll share. The last thing that happened, what may help you out, I'll read it again. They each handed her a bottle filled with different colored pills. So she already had Dr. Bumble come in and he didn't know. He brought in specialists and they didn't know. So they gave her these colored pills. What might happen next? Take a few seconds. All right, looks like about most of you are ready. Who wants to share their predictions? What might happen next? Dryer?
I think the pills won't work and might actually make it worse.
Okay, so what would have led you to that prediction?
Because we tried the ointment and I don't think that worked and I think it made it more worse.
Okay, good. Anyone else? Yes.
I think she won't want to take the pills, so she will act like she took them, but instead she threw them away in the trash.
So you said she won't want to take the pills and then she's just going to throw it in the trash? Okay, why do you say that?
Because it doesn't really seem like she would want to swallow the pill.
Oh.
Because she might be different to other people and then she wants to fit in.
That's a really good one. So yeah, so based off of the story so far, Camila wants to fit in with the other people and want the other kids to like her. So you think that her taking this will make the other kids not like her? Perfect. Yes, I'll take one more. Yes, Angel.
She might turn into a colorful pill with all the colors in the world, all the shapes.
Okay, well, what might led you to that prediction?
So she turn into the flag and with the shapes of stars.
Good, okay. Yeah, so based off of in the pages prior, when she went to school, they said the Pledge of Allegiance and she turned into the flag, so her taking the pills might turn her into a pill. I have a feeling you already read this story. Okay, good. Awesome. All right, let's see if your predictions were right. That night, Camila took her medicine. It was awful. When she woke up the next morning, she did feel different, but when she got dressed, her clothes didn't fit right. She looked in the mirror, and there, staring back at her, was a giant multicolored pill with her face on it. So this prediction was correct. Angels, good job. All right. Dr. Bumble rushed over as soon as Mrs. Cream called. But this time, instead of the specialists, he brought the experts. Raise your hand, who can tell me the difference between specialists and experts? Specialist, Angel.
An expert knows more than the specialist.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, awesome. Is that what you were going to say? Do you agree?
Yeah.
Good. Yes, so the specialists, the experts are a little above the specialists because they know more. They're experts in medicine and sickness and all that, right? Good.
What about masters?
Yeah, masters is even more than experts. Good. Dr. Gordon and Mr. Mellon were the finest scientific minds in the land. Once again, Camila was poked and prodded, looked at and listened to. The experts wrote down lots of numbers, then they huddled together and whispered. Dr. Gordon finally spoke. It might be a virus, he announced with authority. Suddenly, fizzy little virus balls appeared all over Camila. Or possibly some form of bacteria, said Mr. Mellon. Out popped squiggly little bacteria tails. Or it could be a fungus, added Dr. Gord. Instantly, Camila was covered with different colored fungus blotches. The experts looked at Camila, then at each other. We need to go over these numbers again back at the lab. Dr. Gord explained. We'll call you when we know something. But the experts didn't have a clue, much less a cure. By now, the TV news had found out about Camila. Reporters from every channel were outside her house, telling the story of the bizarre case of the incredible changing kid. Soon, a huge crowd was camped out on the front lawn. The creams were swamped with all kinds of remedies from psychologists, allergists, herbalists, nutritionists, psychics, an old medicine man, a guru, and even a vegetarian. Each so-called cure only added to poor Camila's strange appearance until it was hard to even recognize her. She sprouted roots and berries and crystals and feathers and a long furry tail, but nothing worked. Yes, I feel.
Why don't they say something about her and then she could turn into herself again? Why
Hey,
did you
just
do that
say
at first?
Camila. He's turning Camila.
Into Camila? Yeah, I don't know. Let's see if that works.
The gram comes in.
Oh my god. There you go. Alright. One day, a woman who called herself an environmental therapist claimed she could cure Camila. Close your eyes, she said. Breathe deeply and become one with your room. I wish you hadn't said that. Camila groaned. Slowly, she started to melt into the walls of her room. Her bed became her mouth, her nose was a dresser, and 2 paintings were her eyes. The therapist screamed and ran from the house. What are we going to do? Cried Mrs. Cream. It just keeps getting worse and worse. She began to sob. At that moment, Mr. Cream heard a quiet little knock at the front door. He opened it, and there stood an old woman who was just as plump and sweet as a strawberry. Excuse me, she said brightly, but I think I can help. She went into Camila's room and looked around. My goodness, she said with a shake on her head. What we have seen here is a bad case of stripes. One of the worst I've ever seen. She pulled a container of small green beans from her bag. Here, she said, these might do the trick. Are those magic beans? Asked Mrs. Cream. Oh my, no, replied the kind old woman. There's no such thing. These are just plain old lima beans. I bet you like some, wouldn't you? She asked Camila. Camila wanted a big, heaping plate full of lima beans, more than just about anything, but she was still afraid to admit it. Last vocabulary word. Raise your hand and tell me what my heaping means. So I'll read the sentence again. Camila wanted a big, heaping plate full of lima beans, more than just about anything, but she was still afraid to admit it. Kevin?
Ginormous.
Ginormous, yeah.
Oh, I got another word.
Yeah.
Humongous.
Humongous,
I
okay.
got another one.
Last one.
Okay. Where are you?
Alright, let's let Jesus help you out. Okay, Jesus, yeah.
A full plate of lima.
A full plate of, yes. So if you guys add both of those, so like heaping means it's almost to the brim, you know, like it's a huge amount. So yeah, good. All of those are great. Yuck, she said. No one likes lima beans, especially me. Oh dear, the old woman said sadly. I guess I was wrong about you. She put the beans back in her bag and started toward the door. Camila watched the old woman walk away. Those beans would taste so good, and being laughed at for eating them was nothing compared to what she'd been going through. She finally couldn't stand it. Wait, she cried. The truth is, I really love lima beans. I thought so, the old woman said with a smile. She took a handful of beans and popped them into Camila's mouth. Said Camila. What might happen next?
You might turn around.
Raise your hand. Or me.
She's gonna turn into her normal self.
She's gonna turn into her normal self. Awesome. Suddenly, the branches, feathers, and squiggly tails began to disappear. Then the whole room swirled around. When it stopped, there stood Camila, and everything was back to normal. I'm cured, she shouted. Yes, said the old woman. I knew the real you was in there somewhere. She patted Camila on the head. Then she went outside and vanished into the crowd. Afterward, Camila wasn't quite the same. Some of the kids at school said she was weird, but she didn't care at all. She ate all the lima beans she wanted, and she never even had a touch of stripes again. The end. Alright, so with that last, yes, Aaron.
Not her boy.
Her bow, I know, you noticed that, yeah.
I think I know.
That's a good observation, good. Because on this one, she didn't have stripes, but on this one, she does. Alright, so with that last post-it note, I need you guys to write the theme of the story. So now that we finished the book, why do you think I may have wanted to read this book to you? What was the main idea of the story? What message did you receive from the story? So when you write that down, I'm going to call you up by row, and you're going to put it on the board, and I'm going to read some out, okay? So take about 2 minutes, write the theme, and then I'll call you up row by row. Alright, so we've got, I learned that you should like everyone for who they are. That is beautiful. It is about, I think it is about being yourself. Good. Be yourself, and it doesn't matter what other people say or think about you. Beautiful. One of the stories that you need to be you, even though you get made fun of. Perfect. Be yourself and don't think what you are the only person around. Don't care about what other people think. Where's the other one?
No.
This one isn't stick. Alright, I really like, is to not hide what you like just to fit in. Who wrote that one? Good. Beautiful. Awesome. I love it. I think the theme or message is to be yourself and to not listen to others. Okay, so I'm seeing a common theme with your themes. What did you say? Here I am.
I don't know. It's like that.
This one?
Yeah, that one.
The theme would be just be yourself. If you don't like anybody, change who you are. Don't let anyone change who you are. Perfect, yes. So exactly what I was about to say. Most of you guys said to just not change who you are, be yourself. What is the significance of being yourself? Why do you think I would have wanted you guys, a 5th grade classroom, who next year you'll be in 6th grade, to read this? Yes.
Because there will be a lot of people in 6th grade judging us.
Yeah, exactly. Well, not necessarily, but yeah, you're on the right track. You're on the track. Yes, Kevin.
Let nobody think about us. No, let nobody change us the way who we are.
Exactly. Perfect. Yes, Luis.
So when we go to middle school, we don't change who we are.
Exactly. Perfect. You guys are right on track. Yes. So take this lesson in this book with you guys from the lesson from the story is to just be who you are. When you guys get to middle school, it's going to be a completely different environment, but don't let that change who you are, okay? That is exactly what I wanted you guys to learn, and I'm pretty sure that is exactly what the author, David Shannon, wanted you guys to learn, okay? Any other questions or comments about the story? Last one, yes.
Okay.
Where's that book from?
I don't know, but it's a very famous book. Most of you guys have already read this book, right?
Yeah.
So do you feel like when you read it before, it was different than this time? Like when you guys interpret it from the book now?
Yeah, I
Okay.
remember when I first read it, it was with another teacher, and she said all different things.
Exactly, yeah. So how one teacher may read or do an interactive read aloud will be different from another one. So like I said, what you guys have on this is perfect. I wanted you guys to take away this. So really, really good job. Now we're gonna move on to independent reading. So take out your independent reading books and go ahead and read.